Hi. Hello. 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 Can you? Hello. Hope you're doing okay. I cut my bangs again. I'm depressed again. So far, I have read 180 books. It's no biggie. It is. So proud of myself. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for making it to the end of 2024. It's been a difficult couple of years for everyone. And I hope you're okay. I really do. I hope you're happy and stuff. I'm very, very, very proud of you. Okay? You're doing great. You're doing amazing. Keep going, my dude. I already know what's gonna be in my top 3. I already know what's gonna be my top 1, actually, because since I read that book, I mean, in number 10, I have something that I don't feel fair, okay? It's not just technically, it's not fair to put this in this list. I know that, I've read this multiple times, but I read it every year. I don't know, for a while, I've had a Hobbit phase every year. Before that, it was a Harry Potter phase every year. Now, to be fair, the Harry Potter books were, at the time, the only books that I owned, okay? So I just read them, and then I gave myself like a month, and then reread them, and then I gave myself like a month, and then reread them for like forever. And then I got my Lord of the Rings collection with the Hobbit, so I had a Hobbit phase. Then it changed for this one, and it's one of my favorite books ever, like ever, and that is The Bell Jar. So as a whole, it doesn't deserve the number 10 spot. But just for the sake of this video, just because I've read and reread this beauty so many times, it's fine. Like, this is like top 3 situation, but because I read it and reread it, so almost every other book were a new read, there weren't rereads and stuff like that, they deserve to be higher up. I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense to me, okay, just leave me alone. But The Bell Jar, it's always and forever gonna be in my favorite books lists because it's amazing. This book is freaking iconic and well-deserved iconic, okay? If by any chance you've never read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, I hate you. I am jealous of you. I hate you. This is set in 1953 following Esther. Esther is working as a journalist and she is an intern. She's trying to figure out her life. She's in her early 20s, just trying to figure out what the heck she's gonna do with her life. However, shortly after the start of the book, actually just the entirety of the book, there's a sort of borderline between reality and fiction and between Esther's own, I'm talking, well, when I say reality and fiction, I don't mean the book, if that makes sense. I mean the character Esther. There's a meld between her reality and what's real and what's not. There's a sort of severance that is so well done. This is why the book is iconic. It is so incredibly well done. It speaks absolute volumes on mental health, and at the risk, I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, even though it's a pretty well-known book, just because it would break my heart if some of you have never read it and I just spoil anything. Please read it. Let me know what you think. It's truly an iconic piece of literature and well-deserved. Well-deserved, my dudes. It's so difficult to place these. How about we don't place them? How about this is just the top 10 and in no particular order? That's what I'm gonna do. These are the top 10 books that I've read in 2024 in absolutely no particular order, okay? Next up, we have the first book in the Shattered series, Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. I loved this book so much. This is a fantasy. It's a grim, dark sort of fantasy, and after reading the book, I've learned that the author, this is like his only time writing something YA, something a little bit less mature than he usually writes. He usually just writes grim, dark. I've never read anything other than this one from the author. I'm super excited about diving into the world of Joe Abercrombie, but this one on its own, loved it so much. I am yet, unfortunately, to finish the series because I haven't gotten my hands on the rest of the series, unfortunately, yet, but definitely I will. The first book on its own, though, I absolutely freaking love it. It follows the RV, who is a cripple, which love seeing that, and love seeing how it's done. In here, it's just a dude with a ruined hand. That's it. You know, it doesn't victimize, it doesn't do this and that. I mean, obviously there are some victimization moments, but well put and well thought of victimization moments. I loved it so much. By a really cruel hand of fate, Yarvi finds himself a king. Everyone just freaking dies around him, and it's just him and his mama. Okay, I have the biggest crush on his mother. You don't even I did make a video talking more in depth about this, which I will put somewhere in here for your amusement. I still think about it. I still think about Yarvi, and I still think about that freaking ending. It was satisfying, yes, but oh my god, it's like the perfect cliffhanger, in my opinion. It was so well done. It's not too overbearing. I think the best in a really long time, because now that I'm thinking about it, I really cannot think of a better cliffhanger. Loved it so much. Next up, and yes, I am late to the party. You know you're addicted to books, and you have a problem when your book provider starts sliding you notes in your orders. The birth of being a wallflower follows Charlie. It starts with him when he's younger, and then we grow up with him slightly towards middle school and high school. The book's format is written in the form of letters, which he writes to an unknown person, starting every chapter with "Dear friend" and finishing it just as a letter. There's no different narrative structure, and I absolutely love the structure of the book. I was afraid that it's gonna get boring to me. I was afraid of the monotony of it, because just saying that alone, it feels monotonous. Me just saying, oh, it's just letters, it feels monotonous. But the way it's done, chef's kiss. I absolutely loved the narrative structure. It was immensely well done. The story in itself, I was okay with it throughout the entire book until I reached the end. I did not cry, but it still made it to the top 10 books of 2024. I absolutely loved it. It was very emotional and very heartbreaking, and I think it needs a second read for me to actually get everything that had happened, because we got to some traumatic parts and my brain said, we're out of here, bestie. We're gone, my baby boy. We got to some traumatic parts and my heart said, oh, goodbye. I thought it was immensely well written, beautiful, poetic, and the progression of it, following Charlie from when he was a younger kid to his teenage years and even early adulthood years. It was smooth, it was seamless, there was no severance felt, there was no schism felt, and I absolutely loved that so much. I was worried about that. I am growing out of YA. I'm gravitating way more towards adult fiction, so whenever I do like a YA, which, as you see, I still like it. Which, if I do like YA, though, I know that it's just, there's something special about it, you know, because I'm not finding it cringe and I'm not finding it too immature and stuff like that. And the author definitely did their part on this one. I don't think I can talk about this next one without crying. The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Farseer trilogy. Y'all. So one day, I was just scrolling, okay, which seldom happens, and I saw this dude who just said, this is the saddest freaking trilogy that I have ever read. Robin Hobb puts her characters through absolute freaking hell, and yes, I've read A Little Life, and then I heard A Little Life, and my head went, bing, let's listen to this entire video, and I did, and he said, I read A Little Life, and it made me cry, and it was so sad and so well written and blah 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 blah, and I was falling in love more and more and more, baby. But then he said, okay, but as much as Jude has suffered, this is more. Now, for that particular point, I disagree. Unfortunately, Jude had went through a lot more. I loved it. I remember starting this at like 1 something a.m. It was 3 something a.m. and I had still was reading and rereading the first 3 pages of the book. They made such an impact on me because of how it is freaking written. Y'all, the talent this author has is beyond my comprehension. Truly, I had made a TikTok reading while studying this book, and I was shooketh. I've been sitting here for 3 freaking hours rereading 3 pages. I was ensorcelled, completely bewitched, and completely ensconced by this world. The author has a way of completely wrapping you in this world and in the story that is difficult to achieve. It's so freaking seldom that I see this, that I feel the way that I have felt with this book. Even with books and fantasies that I absolutely end up loving, the grasp that this one managed to create and managed to have on me, it was different. We're following Fitz, literally a baby, okay? And then we figure out that he is a bastard, and then he's just thrown and given to the care of this stable master. We follow him as he grows up, okay? This is a medieval type, kind of grim, dark fantasy. Oh my god. Okay. I cried, okay? I cried so much. As the book progresses, we learn that Fitz has a special heart and a special kind of soul, and he is a special kind of being. At the risk of spoiling, he is a special kind of being, and we learn why certain attachments have been made throughout the book. I have to say though, if you usually like my recommendations and you think this is something for you, go ahead and just grab the second one. I know, kill me, right? Freaking kill me. Because the ending, oh, Lord have mercy on us. Next up, we have Lie With Me by Philippe Besson, or the French version, which is the original version, Arrête avec tes mensonges by Philippe Besson. I've read both, loved both so much. I have to say, if you just read, that was very Bella of me. If you just read the English version on its own, you're not gonna feel anything, okay? But if you read both of them, it's lacking just a little tiny teeny bit, but it is gorgeously translated. It is so well done that if I hadn't read the French version, I would have no complaints, okay? I had rated Lie With Me 5 stars, and then I read the French version, the original version, and I'm sorry, I had to rate it 4.5 stars, and then the French version 5. I had to, my dude. The lore behind this book is gorgeous within itself. It's speculated to be a non-fiction and to be an actual autobiographical work, but that's speculation. However, I do believe it. So technically this is a non-fiction. Oh my gosh, she's so smart. It is split into 3 parts. It follows the author as he's traveling and he's getting interviewed, and he meets someone that is in relation to a childhood friend of his, and so we go back to his childhood years of him meeting this person, and then there's a sequence in the book, and we go to 5 years later after that, whenever they're young adults, whenever they are in their 20s, and they kind of drift apart and go back and drift apart and stuff like that, and then fast forward to the author now when he's older and he is reminiscing all these events and his childhood and growing up and stuff like that, and his early adulthood and all that. And it is one of the most beautifully written books that I have ever read in my entire life. I kept reading and rereading and rereading, and there were some parts that I didn't even believe myself that some dude just sat and thought of this and wrote it. It is so freaking beautiful and so immensely poetic, and the story within itself is heartbreaking, and it's beautiful, and it's just it's absolutely bewitching, my dudes, to read, and I loved it. Next up, we have Men in the Sun by Ghassan Kanfani, or Rijal fi Shams by Ghassan Kanfani. I have read both versions. Again, I'm sorry if you only speak English and you are only able to read it in English. It is beautiful and you will love it, but it doesn't match to the Arabic. Okay, I say this a lot, and yes, I am biased, but no one does poetry like Arabs, okay? I'm sorry. I've read poetry. I've written poetry in many languages. Arabic poetry just hits different, my dude. I don't care, okay? Language is just way more diverse. This book, though. I don't know why I go on a harangu. Every time I try to say something specific, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, it's my video. Okay? I'm just kidding, I love you. Men in the Sun, though, by Ghassan Kanfani follows 3 different generations of Palestinian men who are all trying to escape the occupied lands of Palestine. We have Abu Qais, who is the oldest generation within the group. All he wants is to have a safe space and to be able to sleep and wake up and have coffee, okay, and just be safe. We have Asad, who dreams and dreams and dreams of escaping to Kuwait and how he's going to do it, and striving heavily to do it because he wants a better life financially, and he wants just a better quality of life, and also not to fucking die. The youngest generation in the group is Marwan, who truly just wants to be a freaking child. Thank you. Marwan was abandoned by his family members who had already left to Kuwait, and it's just him, and I cried. This book had one of the most heartbreaking endings that I have ever read in my entire life. I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried, and nothing helped. The last paragraph in the book is still ongoing in my head, and I don't think it's gonna go anywhere anytime soon now. So I don't know what to do about that. I'm trying to, this is a case of The Ring, where I'm trying to give off the curse of the book via this video, so please read it. Thank you very much. Next up, we have the top 4, and these I can actually place in specific orders. In number 4, we have Home for the Bewildered by Michelle Tobin. I had gotten this as an arc. So immensely grateful for this arc. I loved it so much. It is such an important book. I was shocked. I actually have to check again if this is an actual freaking debut, because what the heck? It's a debut. Who writes like that as a debut, bro? We're following Dr. Dorothy Morrissey. It's set in the 70s mainly. Wow. It's set in the 70s mainly. Oh my god. It is set in the 70s mainly. It is set in the 70s. The book is set in the 70s. We're following Dr. Dorothy Morrissey, who is a shrink. And we meet a plethora of patients whom I loved so much. We met one patient that gave me... I was taken aback by her, I'm not gonna lie. I have borderline personality disorder. And also whenever I read the book and there is a character that depicts BPD or has symptoms of BPD, I highlight that and I amplify that and I speak about that because it's very important, especially whether they were done right or wrong. And we do have a BPD patient here. I liked it. She was done as close as possible. Hers is not quite BPD though, which is what I have. Along with her and knowing about her life, her personal life, we also meet her patients, which starts after a little bit to mirror her and to create this sort of incredibly well done and incredibly well written tether between her and her patients, and the difficulties of being an honest, which she is, a very honest shrink and a hardworking doctor and stuff like that. I loved it. It spoke about subjects that are immensely important, not just mental health wise, but also inclusivity wise, sexuality wise, and mental health wise, and coping mechanisms wise, and coping mechanisms that may seem to be shitty and dangerous and stuff like that, but also to work for other people and the difference between those, and how someone is supposed to have different perspectives for every kind of different people, because we're different, all of us. I thought it was so well done. We're trying to go through and live through and kind of solve the traumas of these patients, also to go through and kind of solve the trauma and the living situation of Dorothy and just what the heck is happening with her. I thought the relationship between the patient and Dorothy herself, and the relationship between her ego self and her patients, they were just perfectly depicted. I absolutely loved it. The top 3, it's kind of difficult to place these now that I'm looking at them, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Number 3, I have The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. I'm not gonna speak as much about this, but just that it is in the top 3 should, you know, let you know how much I freaking loved it. It was immediate 5 stars. I raved about this. I absolutely got obsessed with it, and I still am. I'm gonna show you my copy. So it is annotated to filth. Yeah, I don't know if you can actually see properly. There isn't a page that I didn't get fully obsessed with and didn't try to understand, to analyze and stuff like that, and I still am. I will reread it again. I plan to sit and do a proper video with you, literally, like, my guys. I was completely bewitched by this. Some pages at this point are even kind of difficult to read. It's an absolute genius piece of work, and yeah, keep a heads up for an upcoming video about the wasteland. Number 2, we have Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I'm just gonna link the video where I spoke about Giovanni's Room somewhere up here. But I loved Giovanni's Room so freaking much. I recommended it to a friend, they read it, he spoke to me about it, and I had a completely even different view of the book, which made me want to reread it again, which is just a huge sign of a genius piece of literature. Oh Lord, literature. Where was I going with that? It follows a young American who is in Paris while his fiancée had escaped to Spain to find herself or whatever, and him finding love in the most unconventional of places. After this, I had became slightly obsessed with James Baldwin, as one does, obviously, and I found it mind-blowing. This is a queer romance, but it's not. After, you can read it as just a queer romance, which is just heartbreaking, okay? It's not just a lovely little queer romance, it's heartbreaking. But after reading the essays of the author, after seeing his interviews and seeing him speaking about the book, it is so much more than that. It is just a depiction of society. It is a depiction of race. It is a depiction of sexuality. It is a depiction of hypocrisy, and it's a depiction of life. It is definitely one of my all-time favorite books now since I've read it. It's incredible. The writing. This would have definitely been the #1 book had I not read the other one that I'm gonna show you in a little bit. But the writing had me shocked, had me in awe, had me just aghast, had me taking a step back every little chapter and just rereading, and then taking a step back and rereading, and it was worth every goddamn reread and every minute that I had spent on the book. It's absolutely beautiful. Lastly, the best book so far that I have read in 2024. I'm saying so far because I keep reading, but I think this is it. Giovanni's Room, and this one is just taking the cake. Inferno. I know, what the heck. Y'all can't even understand the chokehold this one has on me. If you find yourself to be a friend of mine in real life, I'm sorry about the headache that I had given you talking about this book. Dude, this is an epic poem. This is Dante's Alighieri's first part of the Divine Comedy. It follows Dante himself being lost and then passing out in a forest and meeting Virgil, which he takes him throughout Inferno and the 9 circles of hell, and then Purgatorio, and then Paradiso. To be honest, this edition in itself is beautiful, to the point where I had found myself also annotating the introduction. The inside of this book is speckled with me. That sounds disgusting, but I mean everywhere, and I had found this absolutely genius. No pages were left untouched, my dude. Literally no page was left just vacant, and yeah. I had such a fun time reading this book. That's what took me by surprise. I had such an incredibly fun and entertaining, amusing time reading this book. It was genius, yes. It's well written, yes, of course. It's a freaking megalomaniacal piece of work, piece of genius, epic work, but it's entertaining, it's funny, it's amusing, which I loved so much. I didn't expect that, obviously, and I loved that so much. I had such a fun time analyzing this and understanding what everything was and where everything was, and actually the knowledge that I had gathered just from reading a few cantos of the book is divine. From the biblical references to the Roman Empire references, to the Greek references, to the different deities, to different pantheons that we have. I had such a fun time. This is a historical nerd's wet dream, which I am, and it was approved. 100%. Loved it so much. Although you would have a difficult time reading it and understanding it, or even finding it good if you don't have issues. If you are not willing at least to give it the time to try and understand and analyze what it all means, and to see beyond the writing, to see the genius of it, or if you don't have an understanding to medieval poems, which I do by some unfathomable, unbelievable chance in life. That's it though. These have been my top 10 books of 2024. Please let me know what has been your favorite book of 2020. If you've read any of these, if you've liked them, if you misliked them, let me know what you thought. I'd love to have a talk with you, especially about the ones that I'm completely... Actually, about all of these. Okay, I'm obsessed with all of them and I'm in love with all of them and I would love to have a talk with you about them. Other than that though, that's it. I hope you have a nice day. I hope you have a day that you deserve. I love you. See you next video. See you next video.